Hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's NSA Connects session, Stuttering as an Individual Journey, Perspectives for SLPs. I'm Pamela Mertz. I'm the representative from the National Stuttering Association tonight. And again, we want to welcome you all to tonight's what is going to prove to be a fabulous Connect session. We have our professional relations committee that is going to be facilitating tonight's session, and there is a wonderful panel of presenters. Just want to take just a quick moment to go over just a couple of quick logistics and ground rules. The meeting is being recorded for future viewing, and for those that are unable to attend tonight's live session. When our panelists introduce themselves, they will talk about how the panel is going to field questions. So they'll let you know when during the session questions will be welcome and encouraged. And at that time, you can let people know you have a question one of two ways: the old-fashioned way, you can raise your hand like that, or you can go down on the bottom of the icon tray and go down to the react signal, the react button, and look for the raise hand icon. And then that will let the panel know that you have a question, and then you can just lower that. At this time, I would like to turn the control of the meeting over to Courtney Luckman, who's a member of our professional relations committee. And Courtney, take it away.
Thank you, Pam. First, I'm actually going to pin all of the folks that are on the panel and the committee, just so that they're easy to see. So just give me 1 second while I do that. Not great at multitasking. I just wanted to wait until Pam was done so that I wasn't doing that while you were trying to talk, Pam. Okay. Jody. And I'm missing Katie. Okay. No, Katie's there. Okay, sorry. Everybody's here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great, perfect. Okay. So I just wanted to welcome you all here. This event is all about hearing from people who stutter and helping SLPs understand what truly supports them along the way. So this discussion will be led by committee members Jody and Megan. And I just want to thank our panelists for taking the time to share their experiences with you all. And thank you all for joining us tonight. And with that, I will hand it over to Jody and Megan.
Okay, hi, good evening, everyone. Well, I think first of all, we're going to start off, we'll have our panelists introduce themselves. So Cameron, if you want to come on and say hello, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, hey, everyone. I'm Cameron I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. At 25 years old, and I've stuttered since I was 13. So slightly later, and I've been involved with the National Stuttering Association since around 2022 as well. So also late for that.
Great, thank you, Cameron. Katie, if you want to step up and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name is Katie. I am a 20-year-old college student at American University. I'm originally from Los Angeles. I've been stuttering since I started talking. My mom thought I was just so tall that my brain couldn't catch up with my mouth, or that my mouth couldn't catch up with my brain. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
Great, thank you, Katie. And then we also have a new member on our panel. We have Cora, who's being joined by her mom, Molly. So Cora, if you want to say hello, maybe tell us how old you are and what grade you're in.
I am Cora Porzel. I am 7.5 years old. I am in second grade. I live in St. Louis, Missouri. I have been part of the NSA since I was 6 years old.
Thank you, Cora. So what we're going to do is we have a few questions. Megan and I are going to kind of start the evening off, and then our participants can jump in and ask questions. So I think I'm going to start with Cora. So Cora, can you tell everyone that's listening about some of your experiences as a person who stutters? And if you need help from mom, she can certainly.
Oh, she prepped her answers.
Oh, fabulous. All right, Miss Cora, you're up.
Learning about
This one.
Oh, I've stuttered for as long as
We gotta do it loud so they can all.
Oh, I have stuttered for as long as I can remember. Sometimes when I stutter, I feel nervous that people will laugh at me, so sometimes I don't talk, and sometimes I use my strategies. Sometimes I want to talk to people about my stutter, but sometimes I just want to be Cora. My friends and teachers are kind and considerate.
Perfect. Thank you, Cora. Cameron, if you want to follow that and tell us a little bit about your experience as a person who stutters.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned at the start there, I was slightly late for my stuttering. I just woke up one day whenever I was 13, and started to stutter. And so it always has been kind of interesting journey for me from it, because for a while there I didn't view it as a part of who I was, and then over time coming to view myself as a like person who stutters from there, and the National Stuttering Association has been really pivotal in that for me, because prior to 2022, I had actually never met anyone else who had a stutter from it. So I ended up going from 0 to about 700 people at the first conference. So yeah, for sure have had like rocky road with it, like most have, but definitely things over the last few years have been much, much better for me.
Off the mute. Katie, if you want to tell us a little bit about your experience as a person who stutters.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I started stuttering when I started talking, so when I was about 3. And I went through 4 different speech language pathologists from the ages of like, I think it was like 3 to like 6 to like 9 to 12. And then I got really attached to my 3rd SLP, but my dad really wanted me to try a new one, so I had 2 at once for a while there. And then I had the same SLP from like 12 to 18. And I had largely positive experiences with my peers. I had great friends, great teachers. Like I think there were some struggles because like kids can be mean, it can be hard. But like I said, I had largely positive experiences. I actually ended up speaking at my high school graduation about my stutter, which was a really positive experience for me after I had kind of a rough patch when I in my junior year of high school that really taught me a lot. So I ended up speaking, and I've had a super great time. I joined the NSA adult chapter near me actually when I was 14, because I had a friend who was going, so I invited myself, and they were super welcoming. So I've been really great, able to find community in both the NSA, the NAT, as well as Camp Shout Out, which is a camp for kids who stutter in Michigan. And also just like the by chance people I've met in my life who stutter.
Great, thank you, Katie, Cameron, and Cora. All right, Megan, I'll pass it over to you.
Sure. So that kind of relates, my next question kind of relates to what Katie was just talking about. We want to know, for those of you who have had speech therapy, I'm not sure if all of you have, but if you reflect back on your experiences in speech therapy, what was helpful? And maybe what do you wish your speech therapist would have done differently, or what do you wish that they knew about stuttering? And so, Cora, I'm not sure if you've had speech or if you want to answer this, start us off with this question.
Sure. Learning about different tools is helpful for me. I like learning about strategies and by playing games. I like my speech teacher because she is kind to me and patient with my stutter. She teaches me strategies like using slow speech, and I can use the dot outside of my speech when I want to.
Thanks. It sounds like you have a really great speech teacher. I'm glad that she's a kind person that you feel comfortable with. That's awesome. Cameron, I'm curious about your experiences, especially you describe kind of things happening a little bit later in life. I'm curious, what have, in your 25 years, like what has been your experiences with speech therapy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started going whenever I was 14 because it took a year for them to figure out really what was happening. And they like ended up doing lots of like brain scans to make sure it wasn't something physical from there. And so post that, started going roughly when I was 14. And I had a less than positive um, 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 less than positive like experience there from it, because it was very much geared for younger children. So like all of the exercises, all of the so like I like walk in and there was like a very tiny plastic chair that I had to sit on, and then I had to read a children's book, and I couldn't get through it. And so definitely for a while there, I basically refused to go back for a while. But then actually later in my life, I started just regular therapy from there to honestly like cope with some of the overall psychological aspects of it. And so that helped me and made me much more open to speech specific therapy in the future.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's such an important thing that I'm thinking about this SLPs who are watching this or people who are training to become SLPs to know that they need to really individualize their therapy. And so thanks for sharing that, even though maybe it wasn't the most positive experience. That's really important to hear. Um, Katie, I'm curious, you've had a lot of different speech therapy experiences that you described and working with different clinicians. I'm curious, what did you find were the factors that, were most helpful to you? And maybe what were some things that weren't so helpful?
Yeah, so I've had overall some really positive experiences with speech therapy. I think one thing that I always really enjoyed, especially with the SLP I had from 12 to 18, was that we worked a lot of like breath work and like mindfulness and staying calm. And that was, I think, one of my favorite parts because I mean, like, it can be frustrating, especially when you're like 13, 14, 15, when you can't say what you want to say. And also, like, so much is changing. And it was really nice to kind of learn to slow down and kind of incorporate breath work and also like understanding my emotions and talking through how I was feeling and also helping me because when I was in middle school I had a teacher who put me in a pretty uncomfortable public position with my stutter and I was a very non-confrontational kid. I was like running from that as fast as I could. And I told my SLP and she helped me build up a higher hierarchy of like building up to finally being able to tell my teacher like, hey, that was actually not an okay thing to do. And I'm actually still in contact with my SLP. She helped me with what we would call like a tune-up session, so like just some extra sessions. And I think something else that I really liked was that there wasn't really an emphasis on stuttering being bad or like trying to fix it because like at the end of the day it's like a physiological part of me and I think I've heard from a lot of people talking about how like they were told something was like wrong with them, so I really appreciated the focus on like it's to help me communicate as best as I can in the ways that are best for me. So I really appreciated like the individual tailored approach.
Yeah, those are a lot of great nuggets there. Thank you for sharing, and especially, the most important thing you really ended with, that stuttering and being an effective communicator, those certainly coexist as we can see of all of you tonight. So thank y'all for answering my question.
Okay, so Cameron, I'm going to start you off with this one because you had said, you were 13 when you started stuttering and it took you quite a while to even meet somebody else who was a person who stuttered. So how has your experience changed since connecting with a stuttering community?
Oh yeah, it's for sure been a night and a day. from it, just along so many different dimensions as well. I mean, first is just knowing that I'm not like alone, and that's not just happening to me, from there. And then also the reframing aspect of it, sort of similar to what Megan and like Katie were just saying, from it, because from the first speech therapy I like went to, it was very much we have to fix it. These are your exercises. You should see improvement from month over month, kind of thing. Plan, chart, something like that. And then when that didn't happen, you sort of like cave in on yourself a little bit and be like, am I not working hard enough? What am I doing wrong, basically, from it? And so having that group, having that network, having that community, has fundamentally changed it, for me, in terms of being like, oh, like meeting lawyers, doctors, pilots, just people that are living their lives and loving it, with a stutter, really reframed everything for me. And yeah, the overall family aspect of it is something that I really, really cherish.
Great, Kim. Thank you. And Katie, I'm going to ask you the same question. How has your experience changed? You had an interesting experience, finding an adult chapter at 14, which is something, I don't think, a lot of 14-year-olds, do. So how has your experiences changed, with, since connecting with the stuttering community?
Yeah, so I met other kids who stutter just like socially when I was like 13, 12, 13. And one thing that was especially impactful for me was when I went to Camp Shoutout for the first time, and I met other girls my age who stutter, because the stuttering community is just like biologically more men than women. And it was a really validating experience to be like, oh my gosh, like it's not like there are other people who like remind me of my friends back home and who became my friends. It was just not a say like I didn't make friends with the other guys that I met, but it was a really nice experience to have people who matched my experience so similarly. It was also really inspiring for me to see people like I have a friend who's a few years older who's currently a lawyer and speaking to the UN, and like being able to feel like I have role models in my life who I can call and be like, hey, I'm super nervous. I don't want to disclose. I'm scared. And like having someone like talk that through with me, has just been like so empowering. And just like it's really nice to also feel like I don't have to try to be something or worry about being interrupted, with like just a group of friends. And it's been a really, really overall positive experience for me.
Great, thank you, Katie. And I think one of the things that you said that's so important is just when you're having those not so great days, there is somebody to lean on that understands your world, and to be able to call them and say, hey, listen, this is what happened today, or just someone to say hello who just gets it. So I think that's something that's just so important to have this community and group. And I think for all of you. So, Cora, you're our newest to finding this a stuttering community. So you said you found us when you were around 6, and now you're 8. So how has your experience changed over the last 2 years?
NSA helped me with my stutter by telling me it was okay to do it. I like going to the NSA conference and meeting lots of people who talk like me and having fun. Now I give my brother's speech therapy in my room, and I can tell him it is okay to stutter, and that we can help people and grow our community.
Very cool. Cora, this summer, didn't you stand up in front of a lot of people and talk at the conference?
Yes.
Yeah, how many people did you talk in front of? 600, 700?
Oh no.
Yeah, there was a lot of people there. You did it, right? It was the first time. I think mom shed a tear or two. Yep, it was pretty exciting. But thank you, Cora. All right, Megan and Courtney, should we, I'm sure we have a lot of people here joining us, so maybe we'll open it up to questions. Please, this is a great time. We have Katie and Cameron and Cora here. We also have, Cora's mom as well. So, please take this time to ask any questions. Obviously our group loves to share. So, anything that you're wondering about, about stuttering, the stuttering community, speech therapy, please feel free to jump in, either throw something in the chat, raise your hand, whatever works for you. So I have a first one from Courtney. Feel free to put your questions in the chat, if you're more comfortable, or like we said, raise a hand. So whatever works, and we're all going to Megan and I are going to monitor the chat. And great. I see Mandy has her hand up. Oh, I had you on my screen, Mandy, and then there you are. Mandy, if you want to, have a question for our panel.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone on the panel for sharing their stories tonight. It's so important. It's just been a pleasure hearing about your journeys. I'm a person who stutters and a speech therapist myself. And I was just curious to hear from Molly your perspective as a parent, and maybe give us a little insight into what was your experience alongside Cora, or if the speech therapist involved you, or if you wouldn't mind sharing anything about that.
I definitely don't mind sharing, though I also want to be careful. I don't want to take away from our amazing panelists. I will say my husband stutters, and Cora's little brother also stutters. So we are deep in this community. And as far as speech therapy goes, my husband had really negative experiences with it. He's older. When he did speech therapy, he was really taught not to stutter. His speech therapy was basically, if you can't talk without stuttering, don't talk at all. So we knew that we didn't want that for our kids, and we really got a lot of mixed feedback on if we should even do speech therapy. NSA really helped me navigate that, talking to a lot of people who stutter, of what helped them and didn't help them. And we basically met with like our IEP team at school and said, hey, we have a family history of stuttering. We know that our kids are young, but we're going to approach this from their stutter's not going to go away standpoint, and fluency isn't our goal. So we had an awesome team that put together goals that are all really focused on self-advocacy and comfort. And so some of that involves, like Cora said, like her slow speech and her tools that can help her, but it's more about like building a toolbox of things that she can access if she wants to, as opposed to feeling like she has to speak a certain way. So we really lucked out that I kind of prepped my little email script beforehand, got some feedback from people in the community, and was able to send that, and they built off of that.
Wonderful. Wow. Thank you, Molly, for sharing. That's beautiful. Thank you.
And I'm just gonna jump in. I was taking some notes when Katie, Cameron, and Cora were talking, and that's actually one thing that I highlighted. And then Molly, you just brought it up too. It's the when I want to. So yes, she has some tools in her box, but it really is up for Cora to decide when she wants to use them or not. And nobody should ever tell her to do it or to not. So I'm glad you brought that up again as well. I think that especially we have a lot of speech therapists that come on, and I think that's such an important piece. And I see Cameron up there, nodding, and I think that's a huge key for yours to use if and when you want them. So thank you.
I can read
All
this
right, I
one.
know. All right, go ahead, Megan.
I'm sorry, I was like, where's that coming
Thank you.
from?
I was struggling.
All right, so we have a question from the chat. Separate of viewing stuttering as something to fix, what's one of your biggest pet peeves you've experienced throughout your speech therapy journey? Oh, this is a good one. Yeah, whoever would like to answer that one, we can all answer it, or if you don't want to, that's okay too, but we would love to hear your perspectives on that question.
I can start. I think one thing for me was I think at times I met peers who weren't necessarily comfortable with their speech and who would say things that didn't always make me feel super comfortable with my speech and kind of weren't quite accepted of their stutter. So I think that was hard for me at times, but I got really lucky in my speech therapy journeys. My SLPs will really listen to what I had to say in terms of like what I wanted, what I didn't want, like what made me feel most comfortable, and we kind of like worked that in. So it was less a pet peeve and more just something that worked well for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And from and from and from and from and from and from from my side, it's fairly similar for that. But basically, um, uh, meeting people where they are slightly in terms of basically if they voice that they're not comfortable with something, or for example, for me, I was like, I don't really want to read. It was something similar to a Good Night Moon or something like that. From there, to not be fully rigid or like have a set process for um every single client. From there is to have just a little bit of flexibility from that, and to um, basically meet people within a certain reason of their overall comfortability, and what you would view as like still quote unquote helpful.
I just want to throw out Cora. I asked Cora if she had any pet peeves, and she loves speech. So
I have a question as we come upon International Stuttering Awareness Day tomorrow. I'm not sure how to phrase this question, but I'm curious, like, I think sometimes SLPs, can do the best work and know all these things and do all these things, but they're up against systems or people or schools or orgs or all of these things that make it really hard to focus on the goals that they want to focus on. So I'm curious, like, what everyone's experience is with like being able to advocate for yourself, bring family and friends on board. Maybe you can share if there's any sort of negative experiences that you have had with teachers,
and how you have navigated that, and if the SLP helped as well.
So like I said, when I was in 7th grade, I had a kid who made an so okay, sorry, subcontext. I went to a super hippy dippy LA middle school and high school. And so we had a class called life skills where we would sit in a circle and talk about our feelings, and we would light a candle, and it was a whole thing. But we were doing this like go around share, and one kid said something about stuttering, and my teacher stopped the class and went, "So Katie, how does that make you feel?" Obviously I was like, "I don't know. How does it make you feel?" I was more respectful. But I worked with my SLP, and like I said, we built like a hierarchy chart of like practicing like steps that felt less scary. And that was something that always was super important to build like advocacy tools. And we would practice, like I went up to my teachers at the beginning of each school year. I still do that in college. To be like, "Hey, I stutter. This is what helps. This is what doesn't help." And I credit speech therapy to why I was like able and felt comfortable advocating for myself. And how I even got to speaking at my high school graduation, like that was a huge step for me. I do love a talk, as I'm sure has become clear here. But that was definitely scary, and I think just like being taught not only speech tools but advocacy tools, and creating a really open line of communication between me, my SLP, my parent, and my school, or parents and my school, was super helpful for me.
Yeah, so if I like Katie said that she went to like hippy dippy LA school, I went to a rural South Carolina school, so not exactly the same same time there. And so I for sure have some less than fun, if we'll say, or like experiences with it, with like teachers making me stand up in the room and basically say something over and over again until I quote unquote like got it right. And like situations like that from it. And so definitely um uh uh it is one of those things where uh framing it framing it from a lens like now, for example, I have better language and frameworks for like working with something like that and would be able to self like advocate more from it. And that's where I think having a quality speech language like pathologist growing up, or just general overall like therapy, mental health, would have better like equip me, not necessarily for higher fluency, but just general communicative therapy of understanding what was happening, and yeah, just giving some sort of framework for me to go out into the world with from it, instead of just having things happen over and over, having like every day feel like a small car crash over and over again, would have been for sure helpful.
Cora told me to say she's feeling a little bit nervous about talking. There's a lot of people. But we did want to share that when she had a sort of negative experience last year in first grade, she had the cool opportunity because she has a dad who stutters. We worked with her teacher in SLP, that he was able to go and talk to her class a little bit about stuttering. So it kind of gave the opportunity for advocacy without the pressure being on her to be the one that was talking and educating. We're lucky that that's built into our family, but for a lot of other people, I think that just being part of the community, like my husband's now said, oh, if other kids had a similar problem, I'd feel totally comfortable going to their school and having a little chat with the class. So kind of builds in that community component and why being connected can really help.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Molly and Cora. So we have in the chat from Pam Mertz, adult person who stutters here, who also came from a background of what I thought was bad therapy. It took me a lot of courage and a long time to finally share with an SLP that I hated sitting across from someone who didn't look at me, only marked my stuttered syllables on a checklist. Are SLPs generally open to clients sharing things like this? So I'd love to hear from, if we have any speech therapists in the audience. I know personally for me, I'm a speech pathologist, and I do like to hear, things like this, because then it really shows me what not to do. I prefer to hear it, directly from my clients or the kiddos that I work with, so that I know what bothers or upsets them. It might be something that I don't register, but I'm really, really glad. I very much appreciate when my clients share something that they prefer that I not do, so that I don't do it again. So thank you, Pam. And I don't know if there's any other speech therapists, who want to jump in. All right, well, if someone comes back later and wants to share a little bit onto what Pam said, I can go on to the next question. This is from Sydney. This is for our panel. I'm curious if your SLPs had stutters themselves. Do you have a preference working with an SLP who also stutters? I don't know who, if Katie or Cam or Cora want to jump in and answer that one.
Yeah, so for me at least, I would not have a strong like preference for whether or not they stuttered or not from there. But definitely viewing it more through the lens of if you're effective, kind, helpful, from that lens. And I will say, if someone stutters from it, there's more of an initial, okay, you understand from it from there. But I'm genuinely, sometimes whenever I chat with speech language pathologists that have been working in the fields for a really, 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 really long time, I'm like, you actually understand way more than me as a person who like stutters from it, because of the fact that you've seen such a wide array of lived experiences. You've honestly probably thought about it more than me as well. And so some of those factors go into it. And so generally no overall preference for stutter or no stutter. It's just mostly if I can tell that you're first of all compassionate, and then like effective from there.
Yeah, for sure. I have a similar opinion there. I have not had any SLPs who stutter, and I don't really have a preference. I like most people, so I would rather work with someone who I think is kind of understanding, but that's really my only and also qualified. But that's really my only prerequisite there. I got the chance to meet a lot of SLPs who stutter through the NSA and also Camp Shoutout. And that's been super cool for me. Because I think it's just really fun. I feel like stuttering isn't limiting for like any field. And it's just cool to kind of hear the insights of SLPs who stutter. So yeah, no preference.
I turned it on. Does your speech therapist stutter?
Yes.
No.
No.
But do you like her?
Yes.
Would you like to have a speech therapist who does stutter?
Yes. Mm.
So, Cora, I know there's a lot of people here, but what's your favorite thing about your speech therapist? What makes it, why do you like her so much?
What do you like about Miss Marino?
She's kind to me.
Yeah, I think that's what Cameron said and Katie said as well, that seems to be, probably the most important thing is that they're kind and understanding. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Mandy, I see if you want to jump in again, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just love to know if the panelists, if they, getting connected to the community, like what advice, or I don't know, maybe I guess my question I'm losing it, but like advice to the people in the group, learning about the importance of getting people connected to the stuttering community, whether that's through NSA or other support groups out there. Like what advice would you give your SLP about that?
So what was kind of funny on my end is that the first speech therapist who tried to get me to go to a sleepaway camp for kids who stutter, I was like, ha, you want me to go to a camp with kids I don't know for a week? You're crazy. And that was my response pretty continually from ages of like 11 to 14. And then my SLP actually connected me with the person who runs Camp Shout Out. And she introduced me to one of the SLPs who would be there, which was just overall really helpful for me to feel like I was going, like it wasn't just me meeting a bunch of new people, but like it was actually like people knew I was coming and I had people to refer to and kind of going into it, because I think if you don't know how impactful the community is gonna be, there are those really scary elements of like, oh my gosh, meeting a bunch of new people who you've never met. That's scary and it's hard. So I think like bit by bit and hearing from people, um, as well as like starting with a support group. I actually was not sent to the NSA adult group because I was 14. But my SLP was telling someone else about it, and I overheard, and I was like, "That sounds so cool! I want to go!" And no one stopped me. So I think just kind of making a plethora of opportunities available, because some people are gonna want camp, some people are gonna want like one meeting. Some people are gonna like be ready to go straight into the conference. So I think like meeting people where they're at.
Yeah, and for me, I feel like as someone who was relatively isolated with my speech and my journey from there, just that feeling of like almost being surrounded by it from there. I know absolutely nothing about the human brain or how it really functions at the lower level. But I feel like we're very social, social creatures in that that feeling of like, oh, I'm okay, I'm not alone. This is a very normal thing that like other people have fully done, and that I'm not on the necessarily like frontier of anything new and scary from it. So basically, if any clients feel very isolated, that would just be the main thing I would say. Is to reach out, get involved in some way from it. I think almost everybody in the stuttering community, if someone reaches out and like, hey, I haven't ever really met anyone else who stutters. I know very few of us that are not driving across multiple state lines to meet. So that would be the main thing I would say is just reach out to anyone from it. And so, yes, Pam just mentioned in there, we have regular young like adults meeting. These are mostly virtual, and so it's for younger people across the U.S. and like world, honestly, from it to like join these meetings and really meet 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 with others in a similar stage in their life, which is very very chicken noodle soup for the soul almost in terms of what that what that that really does because of the shared experiences and all. So definitely look us up. Young like adults meaning SLPs are more than welcome to join. Um, uh, and so yes, yeah, we meet about like once every month.
Great, thank you, Cam. So Pam also put in the chat, NSA and other stuttering support organizations offer kids clubs or groups and teens groups and parent groups as well. Do SLPs recommend these support options in addition to individual or group therapy? So I see, Mandy shaking her head. So I guess if you want to come off, Mandy, you can tell us a little bit, about that, if this is something you do as well in your practice.
Yeah, and I wear two hats. So I think, unfortunately, well, when I went to grad school, it wasn't really promoted. So I went a long time as a speech pathologist, not doing that myself. And when I started learning more about the stuttering community, support groups, kids groups, things like that, and even for myself, Cameron, you're in good company. My first community engagement wasn't until I was 41, so I had a long time without it myself. And then in my graduate experience, it wasn't taught, but then like having this moment of my own personal healing really opened it up for me as a speech therapist, that identity piece. So I was really just on fire after I know the impact it personally had on me. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get my parents, the parents of these kids that I have the pleasure working with, connected. And so I just went all out on like making that a really prioritized value in my therapeutic approach with the students that I worked with. And so there's so many out there, and so many are virtual, which is really great. So parents don't necessarily have to go to, a one-day conference or an annual. It's great, but to start small, meet parents, meet kids where they're at. Perhaps it's a little overwhelming to go to an in-person event. But yes, ultimately, that's where we hope everyone goes, because like Cameron says, it's chicken soup for the soul. I love that, Cameron. But yeah, there's just so many, and they've grown. And Courtney might speak to it as well, who's been around a lot longer than me, I feel like, to the community. And it's growing. So I really think it's one of the biggest missing pieces maybe in our field for a long time for speech pathologists to be like, oh, the community, it's such a rich resource of connection. And as Katie said, seeing herself in someone else is so powerful. And Molly speaking to, I'm meeting other parents, and your husband, I'm sure. So anyway, I hope that answers a little.
No, thank you,
fun.
Mandy. It
Yeah.
was wonderful. Cora, do you want to tell us a little bit about, because I know NSA has the whole kids club, because you had fun at the conference with that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? People who don't know that it exists? Maybe
No.
one activity you did during the conference with the kids that you thought was cool?
We made mm, 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 trees.
You made trees, very cool. So you could just nod yes or no. Was it a lot of fun with the kids? Yeah. So very, very active kids group as well. And like everyone said, that's, you know, a little bit older, just how important it is, you know, to get involved. And I'm so thrilled that, you know, speech therapists are recommending these groups as well. And like Cameron said, so many of them are online, and it's so easy to jump into a Zoom meet and just, you know, get to meet other people.
And I just wanted to add to that, like, I think, and I'd be curious to hear from you all as well, like what you think, but it's easier said than done in the sense of like, and I've only just sort of like understood this, that like as much as we know this works, we know this will help, we want like our clients to meet other people who s- 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 stutter. We can't force people to go, and like 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 Katie said, you know, it might be a lot if we're telling people like, hey, you should go to this and that. And it might be like a lot even if we're saying like, hey, you should, you know, log on to this Zoom event, you know, and it's great that we have these events. But I think sometimes it's still like a lot for somebody to go because it um forces people, I think, sometimes to confront it, right? Like when you attend a group like this, it's like, oh, wow, yeah, okay, this is like a real thing. And I think it's much easier to hide and much easier to not like face that. And so I think as SLPs, right, like we need to be mindful of that because we don't want our clients to feel shame about that, right? And like it's okay if somebody like, I mean, I know people who knew about NSA for 10 or 20 years and just didn't go until then, right? And had to be like at the right place to be able to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I really think that shows up in like my path from it because of the fact that I didn't go or uh first conference, first time meeting someone else with it was basically 8 years from starting to stutter, and it was because I didn't really view myself as someone who like stuttered. As weird as that sounds, clearly I'm not, I'm not, I'm not fooling anyone from it. But for a long time, it like took me a long time to separate that for myself from it because for a long time because of the over like connotation I had with the concept of like stuttering. I was like, I'm like not the I'm not the butt of the joke in the sitcom. I'm not like that. I'm not like that. From there. So it actually took me realizing and fully understanding that I am a person who stutters. Once again, as weird as that sounds, for me to even consider going to a conference from there. So really fantastic point, Courtney.
I would love to jump in on that really quick too, just because kind of relating it back to Cameron talked earlier about how important it is for like speech therapy to be personalized. And it's just like that when you give advice and stuff, like you really have to think about who you're talking to. And our little anecdotal thing will be Cora's first conference. We show up, we go to the main room, people go on stage, and she turns to me and she goes, "Oh, that person stutters. That person stutters. Oh my gosh, that person stutters." Like seeing people who stuttered made her feel elated. And I dragged my husband the next day. And for him, who he'd only really had negative experiences with his stuttering, he showed up and he was like, talking to other people who stuttered makes me feel horrified. Like it has been a real growth thing for him to surround himself with people that are speaking in a way that he never really felt like he could. And so when you really have to take into account like where people are at on their journeys, what experiences they've had with stuttering and how they're going to feel if you put them in a room with 2 people who stutter or 500 people who stutter, or you really have to, context matters.
Yeah, no, thank you, Molly. So I have Pam and both Courtney said, beware of the word should. We don't want to should onto our clients. And Jeremiah said, great point, Courtney, thank you. And then I thought there was something in here from Courtney, who had said that her aunt pushed her out of the car when she drove her to her first NSA conference. You wanted to back out. And then Mandy in the chat, yes, we can plant the seeds, share the information, but never force a client. Thank you, everyone.
This made me think of a question, kind of along this topic. In my primary role, our role as a committee really is thinking about what's the most important information that we can get to people like SLPs. And I also personally, in my role as a professor, I'm teaching students who are going to go on to become SLPs. And I think that things have changed so much in how we are training our SLPs to be effective. And part of that we're recognizing is the value of experiential knowledge and information from people who stutter. And so I'm wondering from the panel, aside from that it's okay to stutter, are there other things that you think are really critical for speech language pathologists in training to know when they're getting their training to become clinicians?
I think one thing that really helped me was that it's as much as we can work to really make ourselves comfortable with how we talk and really accepting is that not everyone is going to always feel like that, and kind of leaving space to be upset and be frustrated. And I think one thing that really helped me is I had someone who made fun of me my junior year of high school, and it just knocked me out. Like I stopped talking in class. I got really, really upset. And it was really nice for me to be able to come into my SLP's office and be like, nope, I am not okay. That sucked. And that's okay. It's okay for it to not be fun all the time. And that, it's okay to not only really cherish the strength and the value of being part of such an amazing community and having these invaluable experiences because of our stutter. And I think also learning to support clients when they're struggling and not feeling heard and not knowing how to employ their tools in the world.
Yeah, and for me, for me, very, very similar for that from there. Just the level of like benefit I think I would have had if like growing up someone sort of sort of sort of sort of like tied the functional to the like emotional aspect of it to where basically um uh half almost like expert ex half half like ex half a half 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 like experiential in terms of like let's practice ordering a coffee or just like something like that from it, and then almost sort of um, uh, uh, helping me view myself as a whole person, regardless of fluency from it from there. So like for sure that more like holistic therapy of like what that looks like from it, tying that functional to the like emotional.
I just want to echo that because that reminds me of something I totally forgotten about. But when I was in middle and high school, my SLP and I would go out to like coffee shops or restaurants and like practice ordering and also practice standing up for myself and explaining stuttering. And that was great because I got a free treat and also got to practice. So that was a super great point. And I want to echo how like effective like experiential learning with training wheels can be.
I don't think I've ever heard it put that way, and I just want to say, like, I really love that idea, like experiential learning with training wheels, and I think that speaks to like this idea of like it's about small steps, and it also reminded me how important it is for SLPs to be able to do these things too, right? Like if they ask somebody to go out and stutter openly, then like they need to be able to model that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the almost like freedom side of it, from there about what that would have done for me growing up, had I had that over like perspective on it, and that help um, freeing freeing my speech, not for like fluency purposes, but freeing it from shame, anger, like avoidance, some of those features of it, sort of makes me wonder like how things would have been sort of like different for me if had all of that time had been spent focused on that freeing aspect of it.
So if there aren't any more questions, we can probably wrap things up, but I do want to give folks a chance, if you haven't asked anything, to please ask whatever. I feel like, I mean, I can't speak for the group, but I feel like we're all pretty much like open books, and you know, I'm saying we, I'm not even on this panel, but you all seem like you are very open and honest and willing to answer anything. So if anybody has anything that they want to know, now's your time to ask. All right, then. Okay, great. I have another question. Go ahead, Jody.
Yes. So we have a question from Nicole. Oh, how does stuttering impact your work life? So I know Ms. Cora doesn't have a work life yet, but Cameron, and then I know, Katie, you're in school. So, if anyone wants to, Cam, your
Yeah.
house.
Yeah. So it's for sure been a journey for me from like that side as well from it. I work at I work at a bank, which means I'm actually still here. From that, just in case anyone's curious, why there's a big whiteboard behind me. But so definitely has been some struggles with that as well. And it's mostly about how do you still frame yourself as a like competent and confident as somebody who has who has who has who has a stutter, and and I I like will not lie and say everything's been perfect always with it from there, but it's really about finding once again, once again, once again, once again, like the right network and people that see you beyond just your speech from there, and then yeah, there's a whole other thing we can go into about the what it's like giving presentations, what that means for your like work overall quality, how that sometimes has to rival and surpass fluent people from it. But yes, for sure has had some unique challenges with it, but it's also given me a very, very interesting insight and a like deeper empathy, and other people are more willing to let their guard down and be vulnerable with me in an environment that's actually usually not like that. And so there has been lots of silver linings as well with it.
Yeah, so I am a college student, so I can't speak to having a full-time job. Um, but I've worked a few internships, and I found one thing that really helped me was having like the support of people who had been in the same position as me. Like in my first internship, I was working for a judge, and there was another intern, and I couldn't tell if he was talking over me because he was older, or because I was a woman, or because I stuttered. And I was either way, he was talking over me, and I found it very annoying. And it was really nice to have the support of other people who stuttered to be like, okay, this is what you can say and do. And so my like local NSA group was super helpful for that. And then for the internship I was working last semester, I was going through a particularly challenging time, judge us like with other factors which were greatly impacting my speech. And I was having a really hard time connecting with my boss because like I couldn't like make jokes or like say things because like she was super busy because she was super impressive, and I'd be like, wait, oh nope, she's gone, did not hear me. Yeah, all right. So I think I actually went back to my SLP, and I was like, okay, I want to practice making jokes. I want to practice like being able to communicate with my boss on like a human level, um because it was also like kind of preventing me from the networking, because my boss was always running off and I couldn't catch her talk in the speed like the length of time from her office to the conference room. So like learning how to like assert myself while still being mindful of her time constraints, because like as much as I can wish the world would just like stop and let me talk, I also kind of had to work to be mindful of like she has 8 minutes from her lunch break to her meeting. What can I fit into this? And so I think trying to make a plan that worked well for me was very helpful and helped me feel more comfortable. And I ended up having the best experiences at that internship. Um,
Great, thank you, Katie and Cameron. And Pam put in the chat that the NSA has a wealth of career resource information for both people who stutter and employers. She also put the web link in there as well. So that's definitely a really, really great resource to reach out to.
All right, so let's wrap things up. I just want to thank our panelists for the time and for being open and being willing to share. It really means a lot. And thank you to Megan and Jody for facilitating this. Like Pam said earlier, we are the Professional Relations Committee. We try to offer these NSA Connect sessions once every 2 or 3 months. So feel free to join. And also, if you do work for a school or a practice or just any place that you think would benefit from a in service, we do provide those as well, and they're free. So, and I think there was one more question in the chat. So we do have a few minutes if you all want to address that.
Sure, I can read the question really quick for us. What are some behaviors you would rather see from a speech therapist instead of writing down notes? When you're stuttering, would you feel more comfortable with someone who's making eye contact with you, making head nods, and or reminding you of strategies? What are some behaviors that you would like to see at your SLP?
So that's a great question. And I think it's something that kind of emphasizes why it's super important to talk to individual clients, because I know for me, I really liked my SLP, like reminding me after my bumps of my tools and kind of helping me integrate them. But I also know some people who stutter who would not like that. I don't remember really any of my SLPs ever taking notes, which as a kid especially, I think I really appreciated, because it must have felt like an adult thought I was super cool and just wanted me to keep talking. So, but I think also like it would make sense to take notes, but I think just like making sure to stay super involved in what the person is saying, and they might not know their preferences yet, especially if they're just starting speech language, like speech therapy. So making sure that like there's open communication, and that like they know that you won't take feedback personally, and like creating a really open line of communication.
Thank you. That was really great advice. Would anyone else like to weigh in on that one before we sign off? If not, that's okay, but we'd love to hear if so.
Yeah, and I like general, I'm a fan personally of like taking notes, but I understand that might be different from a business setting than an actual like therapy listening session from there. So probably from that, I would want to see just a little bit of eye contact would probably be good during a therapy session. Not trying to tell y'all how to do your job, but I feel like eye contact and listening might be a good place to start.
All right, with that, we will sign off. Thank you again, all, and I hope you all have a great night and happy International Stuttering Awareness Day Eve.